So, let's get real about one of the biggest questions that's haunted humanity for centuries. Why does God let children die? I mean, really, why? If there's an all-powerful, all-loving being up there, how do we square that with the raw, heartbreaking reality of kids suffering and dying in ways that make your stomach turn? Today, we're diving into the problem of evil, but not some abstract philosophy class version. We're talking about the kids, the starving ones, the abused ones, the sick ones who never had a chance. And yeah, we're going to call out how some folks rationalize it away, with neat little answers like God's got a plan or free will did it. Spoiler, those don't hold up. By the end, you might be left with an uncomfortable truth. A God who watches this happen isn't loving, or maybe isn't there at all. Stick with me. This is going to ruffle some feathers, but it's worth the think. First, let's paint the picture, because we can't sugarcoat this. Every year, around 4.8 million kids under 5 die. That's not some distant statistic. It's from recent UN reports. It's a relentless drumbeat of tragedy. Break it down. That's about 13,150 children every single day, vanishing before they can even grasp the world. Every hour, roughly 550 little lives snuffed out, and every minute. Nearly 9 kids gone, or 1 every 7 seconds. 1 every 7 seconds. While you're reading this sentence, another child has slipped away, starving, broken, or gasping for breath. We're talking about little ones who never see their 5th birthday, and a huge chunk of those deaths, totally preventable, take starvation. Half of all child deaths are linked to malnutrition. Imagine a toddler, bones poking through skin, eyes hollow, crying for food that never comes. In 2023, about 3 million kids died from hunger-related causes. 3 million. That's like the population of Chicago wiped out every year, mostly in places like Africa and Asia, where droughts, wars, and poverty turned food into a luxury. These kids aren't dying because they chose it. They're starving while the world has enough food to feed everyone. It's not fate, it's failure. And while we're arguing about cosmic plans and free will, another child just took their last rattling breath. The clock isn't stopping for theological debates, folks. Then there's abuse. Millions of children are beaten, neglected, or worse, every year. The World Health Organization estimates that 1 in 4 kids experiences physical violence, and sexual abuse affects hundreds of millions. Thousands die from it. Shaken babies, beaten toddlers, kids left to rot in neglect. In the U.S. alone, child abuse kills about 1,700 kids a year, but globally, it's in the hundreds of thousands when you factor in underreported cases in poor countries. Picture a 4-year-old covered in bruises, terrified of the parent who's supposed to protect them. Does God step in to stop the fist or the neglect? No. Why? If divine intervention is a thing, where is it for these innocents? Does the all-seeing eye of God simply avert its gaze when a child is screaming in terror? Is it too busy listening to prayers about finding car keys to notice a broken arm or a shattered spirit? And disease. Oh man, this one's a killer, literally. Lower respiratory infections like pneumonia take out over 500,000 under 5 kids annually. Add in neonatal disorders, diarrhea from dirty water, and preventable illnesses like measles or malaria, and you're looking at millions more. In 2021, 4.5 million child deaths were tied to these, many from lack of vaccines or basic care. A baby gasping for air in a rundown clinic, or a kid wasting away from HIV because stigma blocked treatment. These aren't rare tragedies. They're everyday horrors in a world where medicine exists to save them. So why the silence from above? We invent vaccines, build hospitals, dedicate our lives to fighting these scourges. Meanwhile, the supposed architect of the universe just observes. It's less like an interventionist deity and more like a celestial documentary filmmaker just watching the carnage unfold. Now Christians, and I'm not knocking believers here, many are doing real good in the world, have some go-to answers for this mess. Let's unpack them. They sound comforting at first, but dig a little, and they crumble like a house of cards. First up, God has a plan. You know, everything happens for a reason. So, a starving kid in Yemen, or an abused toddler in a basement, that's part of some grand divine blueprint? Come on. If the plan involves letting innocents suffer horribly to teach the rest of us a lesson, or build character. That's not benevolent. That's sadistic. What kind of plan requires a child's agony? And if God's plan is so mysterious we can't question it, why bother with prayer or morality at all? It turns God into a cosmic puppet master, pulling strings on suffering kids. Snarky side note, if this plan is so perfect, why does it look an awful lot like random chaos? And if this plan is so intricate, why does it always seem to involve the most vulnerable paying the highest price? It's a convenient narrative for those not experiencing the suffering, I'll give it that. Then there's free will. The idea that evil exists because God gave us choice, and humans abuse it. Wars, neglect, all that. Okay, fair for adult and adult stuff. But kids? A baby dying from malaria didn't choose the mosquito bite. A child abused by parents didn't opt into that hell. And natural disasters like earthquakes burying kids alive? That's not free will, that's geology. Plus, if God could intervene without violating free will, like the miracles in the Bible, why not for a dying child? It's like saying, sorry kid, your suffering is the price of someone else's freedom. That's not justice, it's collateral damage. And honestly, if free will is so sacred, why does God override it sometimes? Like the Red Sea parting, but not for a starving village. It's a selective application, isn't it? Miracles for ancient battles, but silence for modern epidemics? Conveniently, free will is only paramount when it absolves the divine of responsibility for suffering, but apparently negotiable when a dramatic display is needed. Another classic, it's for the greater good, or we'll understand in heaven. Really? Tell that to the parents burying their child. If the greater good requires innocent suffering, what kind of good is that? And heaven as a fix? It doesn't erase the pain here and now. Plus, it feels like a cop-out. Don't worry, the afterlife makes it okay. But for the kid who never got to live, what's the point? It's like promising a Band-Aid after letting someone bleed out. It's a celestial IOU written on the tears of parents. Your kid suffered horribly. But trust us, there's a cosmic refund coming later. How many centuries do we need to promise future compensation before we admit the original debt should never have been incurred? Know what's wild? Whenever tragedy strikes, people thank God for the survivors, but never ask where he was for the ones who didn't make it. We comfort ourselves with miracles, but ignore the math. For every one miracle, there are thousands of unanswered cries. And maybe that's the hardest pill to swallow, not that the universe is cruel, but that it's indifferent. The rain falls on the innocent and the wicked alike. There's no plan, there's no script, just us, fragile, flawed, but capable of compassion. So maybe the real miracle isn't divine intervention. Maybe it's human intervention. Every scientist who develops a vaccine, every person who donates, protects, feeds, or stands up when no one else will. That's where salvation actually lives, not in the clouds, but in each other. Because if God won't stop the suffering of children, then we must. And maybe that's what growing up as a species really means. Realizing that the power we keep waiting for is already in our hands. Look, these rationalizations are human attempts to make sense of the senseless, and I get it. Facing the void is terrifying. But let's be raw. If a human parent let their kids starve or get abused because it's part of my plan or free will, we'd call child services. Yet we give God a pass. That's the double standard that keeps me up at night. It's the ultimate divine immunity clause. We wouldn't tolerate this level of inaction, this casual disregard for suffering from any earthly authority figure. But when cloaked in divinity, it's suddenly sacred mystery. So what's the unsettling truth? If there's a God who's all-powerful and all-loving, why the silence on child suffering? Either this God isn't as powerful as claimed, can't stop it, or won't stop it. Or, the simplest explanation, maybe there isn't one. It's harsh, I know. Ruffles feathers. But think about it. Without a divine puppet master, the responsibility falls on us. We can fight starvation with aid, end abuse with laws and support, cure diseases with science. No waiting for miracles, just human action. And isn't that a far more profound truth? That the power to alleviate suffering resides not in some distant, indifferent heaven, but in our own hands, our own compassion, our own will to act. No celestial plan, it's just human imperative. I'm not saying ditch spirituality if it helps you, but let's stop excusing the inexcusable. Those kids deserve better than rationalizations. They deserve a world where we step up, What do you think? Does faith help or hinder morality here? Hit the comments, but keep it real. Thanks for sticking with this heavy one. Peace.